Well, hello, everybody. David Morris here, publisher for Lake Drive Books, where we publish books that help you heal, grow, and discover. And I'm excited to be together with author Brandon Flanery. Um, Great to be with you, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Good deal. I like your own shirt. I told you that off camera. It still looks really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, we love a good thrift find.
That's amazing. I do too. Love to talk to you about your book. As we record this, it's still forthcoming. Uh, Stumbling, a Sassy Memoir about coming out of evangelicalism. It's really an amazing read. It's going to be very exciting to see this book launch and to get out there and to get your story out there. It's such a needed story. We need stories like this, and they're all helping us move forward. I like to start these little interviews lately with a few icebreaker questions so that we can all get to know you a little bit better.
Great.
Um,
I was a youth pastor, so I'm all about that.
oh yeah, totally. That'll always be in you.
Yeah, well,
All right. Well, speaking of which, let's start with this question. What Christian artist, performing artist, do you still follow who may be deconstructed?
I mean, yeah, Christian artists. I mean, the very first one that comes to mind is Trey Pearson. He was on, oh gosh, this is bad that I'm forgetting his Casting Pearls
Okay.
was. Oh my
I'm
God.
the
We
wrong person to
asked
help
you
you out here.
before.
Sorry.
um it's so funny because I like have gotten so much distance from that I'm just like, oh my God, where did I engage with them first? Because I turned my dad on to his original Everyday Sunday. That's what it was. I'm like, that's not right. Yeah, Everyday Sunday. I turned my dad on to Everyday Sunday. Like, he took my dad to get us into free concerts, would do security for all the Christian bands growing up in Colorado Springs. So
Wow.
yeah, so I saw Plus One also back in the day, the Newsboys. But
Yeah.
Everyday Sunday was just like, I loved them. And so when Trey Pearson came out and created a virtual safe space for LGBTQ individuals, I was like, oh, hallelujah.
Oh, that is
It's
awesome.
just, it's also just like this fun little thing for me where I'm like, hey, Dad, you know that band that you really liked?
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Okay, I'm really gonna look him up now. Look them up.
Yeah. So Trey Pearson's great. Like, they have a lovely safe space that I've been a part of on Facebook. And they've been doing some really fun, cool, like now music. Now after coming out, like they just did a song about like school shooting. So like even using their
Mhm.
platform for advocacy and
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
yeah, great human. And they just got married this um like a week or two ago.
Oh,
So
oh, awesome.
yeah.
Okay, next question. Um, I see that you got a bookcase behind you. It's a little bit empty. That's because I
Yeah,
know that you have moved
I have, yeah.
from Colorado
That's why there's
Springs.
also like my grocery bag that's right there.
Yeah, you now live in Atlanta, Georgia.
I do. Yeah. And
Tell,
I
tell.
sold everything and flew here. I didn't, yeah, get into a car.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. So why Atlanta?
um, I first start, anyone who's kind of in or was in those evangelical spaces probably has heard at least the name Colorado Springs. I remember growing up, we would tout ourselves as the evangelical Mecca, just because
Yep.
of all the ministries that were there. I mean, Focus on the Family is there. It's got 5 military bases. So there's a lot of that space there. And so for me, it wasn't as much about like, I should go to Atlanta, but it was more of, I need space from Colorado Springs. I've been there the majority of my life. And I just felt very reactive.
Yep.
And something that I've been processing in my deconstruction lately has been how being reactive, I think, is important to have that having that identity is super important to create those boundaries and distance. But at the end of the day, I also don't want my energy to still go to evangelicalism now in a negative sense. Like, I just want to be done. So I noticed in myself this reaction to evangelicalism, and I want my choices to be more authentic rather than being reactive in nature. And so, I
Mhm.
wanted a space where it was like fresh, where I wanted a gayer city. I wanted a city where I felt like I could like hold someone's hand and it wouldn't be a problem. And I wanted something warm and not crazy wanted it to be like at least on the same cost of
Yeah.
living as Colorado
Yeah.
so Atlanta kind of checked all the boxes, and it's kind of just an experiment to see if it'll work.
Yeah.
It's not like there was this burning bush moment where Jesus said,
Yeah.
"Come to Atlanta." It
Well,
just
that's
checked
good too. You grew up in Colorado Springs, basically, right? And
yeah, since I was
so
10.
nice to be somewhere different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I love me some novelty. So that's another reason.
Yeah. Well,
So
best wishes in Atlanta.
thank you.
And then last question, really easy one. What do you do to unwind?
I love rock climbing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I especially after like a long day at work, because I that pays the bills as of right now. And so I love like being able to clock on, do my work and clock off, and I don't have to think about it. So it's a good
Yeah.
balance for me, especially because my work is really supportive and lovely. And so it's just been a really easy fit. But yeah, I get off, I work from home, and so I get a little stir crazy. So at 3:30, I am on my bike and I'm biking to my bouldering gym because it allows me to turn off everything. I have like ADHD and can bounce around everywhere, but the beautiful thing about bouldering is it forces me to not just get a physical workout where I'm getting out this energy, but like I have to solve a problem. And so it gets me out of my spinning head that can think about existential
Oh, I
questions
love it.
or like all that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
instead I'm just thinking about like, how do I get up this wall? And that
Yeah.
type of thinking is helpful for me. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I run, but I'll tell you, sometimes like thoughts come into my head and I get angry.
Yes.
Especially when I listen to a deconstruction podcast, I start getting angry about what goes on.
100%. Gosh, I did this, I also hate running. I think it's from my trauma. I went to Teen Maiden Ministries and they had us run every morning at 4:30 in the morning,
Oh,
like a couple miles. And so I think there's this like, I will not run. But when I did, if I do need to think about something, I will walk or run because my brain,
walking is great for that.
yeah, but like
Yeah.
I get some great thoughts when I'm thinking, but like if I'm wanting to not think about something and
Yeah,
just break, it is
totally.
not the activity for me.
Well, let's talk about this amazing memoir that you worked so hard on.
Thank you.
And it was very evident. I mean, I'm your editor and your publisher, and it was very evident that you spent a lot of time working on this manuscript. Had a lot of folks help you out.
Yeah, really appreciate it them.
You know, I think maybe interestingly enough, perhaps it might be interesting to say one thing first, and that is, I know you've done some research recently about why people have been leaving church, and one of the things that your research turned up was the number one reason people are leaving church, and it was one of the reasons I left the church that I was most recently involved in too. Can you just remind us about what you found there briefly? Because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so I asked 6 questions to kind of be, I opened up to anyone at just to kind of see what would happen. So I didn't specifically pick Christian, but that's what happened. So to be more encompassing, my first question was, what existential framework did you come from or raised in? What existential framework do you find yourself in now? When did you first start doubting your initial existential framework? When did you finally leave? Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? What do you miss and what have you gained? And so, yeah, it was one thing that just really surprised me. I knew it was a big deal. I didn't think it was the biggest deal. And that is 25% of people have left or are leaving Christianity as a result of LGBTQ affirmation and acceptance.
Right.
Which gets me excited because I think that I would say it hasn't really taken really foreground and since like, I don't know, starting maybe 2018, 2019, definitely 2020 really coming to the foreground with everything that happened that year, of just like, I had to leave space, and you had friendships and support systems that fell apart as a result of me coming out. So to see, and had to start over at 25, and that's part of my memoir. So to see like people that now I've started to reconnect with, even from my Bible school, as a result of them processing this and being like, I don't know what I believe more, especially because of this issue, I'm not okay with it, gives me a lot of hope, because a lot of the pain that I experienced initially from the church was in relation to me coming out. So to see like people doing the work and being unwilling to compromise in that, and to ask questions like, I know it's really cheesy, but like, what would Jesus do? And not land where a lot of evangelical churches are landing. I'd say the vast majority. 25% are like, you know what, I can't in good conscience
Stick with
um
this. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then other big ones too, like politics. Number 2 is behavior of Christians, and we've heard that one for a long time, like
Yeah.
hypocrisy, judgment. And then number 3 is politics, which in my conversations, whether it be digitally or like just with friends, because of the background I come from, 2020 was a huge year politically for why people left.
Yeah.
Like the word Trump in particular was used. I think I had it like 75 times specifically.
Yeah.
Obviously, like politics was used and all that stuff, and nationalism was used, but like Trump himself was
Right.
named as a reason for people leaving.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's come out a lot in a lot of other spaces about politics and Trump in particular, and it's been documented. But what I don't think people realize is that like right on the ground level, a lot of it has simply been, hey, I've just realized my church is not affirming.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get married, if you want to be in leadership, if you want to be allowed to teach children, oh, my gay friends can't, my queer friends can't do any of those things. This is not right. And it's just, and then when you layer that on top of all the other political stuff going on, it's like that's the straw that broke the camel's back for sure.
And like, if that's your stance, okay, make a statement, put it on your website. The one that really pisses me off with that is like when so many evangelical churches do their whole standing in the middle, like when BLN happened, they like weren't willing to make some stances. LGBTQ is like another one. They're like, well, we welcome everyone. And I tell people, when you hear that, run.
Yeah.
You're an LGBTQ person, because if they have done the work and they're actually affirming, they will use that word affirming. They will put it on their website because they want queer people to know that they're safe. Versus if they're not putting it out there, chances are they want to be cryptic. They don't want to get in trouble. We're seeing that recently with the Hillsong document. Oh my God, the next 2 came out today, which I'm just gobbling up. So it's been, because that was like my church. I grew up in a mega church that like we had United come to like a conference that our church put on. And so like the flavor of Christianity that I come from is very much so like Hillsong. And so I'm just sitting there being like, whoa, like this feels, because I feel like so many other documentaries, I was enough removed where it was just like, yeah, of course. This feels like really home. So anyway, plug that. I'm sure that no one needed, but there you go.
So hopefully there's a segue here, and I don't think it's unrelated. Talk about why you wrote this book.
Yeah. To be candid, I mean, like I've been writing for a long time. I've loved writing. I feel like I articulate myself so well in writing, versus talking. It can be a little bit messy. Because I say things before I think them through. I even bring that up in the book. So it's been on my radar for a while. I moved to Korea to kind of like have this hurrah, like I'm gonna trust the divine again and let's see what happens. And I was in quarantine for 2 weeks, like kind of trapped in this little room. And I was like, if I was going to write a book, like this is the time, like, when am I going to have 2 weeks where I cannot do anything? And so I was just like, let's just start it. And then also it was kind of this thing of like, let's see what I love. Cause felt like coming out of evangelicalism, it was like, what the hell are hobbies? What is that? So like taking time just for me to find out what I enjoy. So I was like, let's just try it. Like maybe that'll be my thing. And like,
that's no small point you just made. Like, what the hell are hobbies? I like that. That's a good one. Yeah.
I just, especially anything around identity and loves and wants, like I'm still doing work around that, but
right.
Started it there. And I thought that in my head, this is like me probably playing cards. I don't know but there was a hubris that was totally at play of like, had this arc in my head of like, man loses faith while overseas as a missionary, man gains faith and trust, dares to trust God again back overseas. And for me, it was this like beautiful, pretty arc. But as life goes, it is not pretty like that. And like literally 6 weeks later, my best friend had this crazy accident. This happens in the book. And I had to like uproot my life, move back to the States, kind of like with I don't know what's going to happen. All I knew is that I could not miss his funeral, and I wanted to be there with people that I loved, and could not get time off from the job that I had in Korea. So I had to quit and start over again. And so I
At no
stopped.
small cost either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't going to keep writing the book. And my friend Taylor, Ashley, we were YWAMers together. We were catching up when I came back. He's like,
YWAM being Youth with a Mission.
Yeah. Sorry. It's like such vernacular still. I'm just like, oh yeah,
totally.
So he was just, he says, are you going to keep writing now that you're back? And I'm like, I don't know. I had this really great arc in my head, and now it's just not that. It's like disappointing. Like man trusts and gets disappointed. Like that's not a great, ending. And he was just like, but it's life.
But that's right.
And he says, and I think that story is actually way more important than some bow-tied happy ending. So it doesn't completely end with me just coming back disappointed. There's more to it. I'm not going to spoil it, but I do find hope eventually. The final chapter I didn't write until I had most of the book written a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. But then like I realized that it was missing a piece and would just add a piece here. And poor David, I'm like, can I add this? Can I add this? But like, I think there was an important arc at the end where it's like, okay, no, like I do think that there is hope here, and I'm moving through it and into something beautiful and good. So
yeah,
that's the reason I wanted to process my journey of deconstructing my faith in intersection with my sexuality. Because I do think even back then I had this feeling of I am grateful for my sexuality, because I was a great Christian. Like I fit in well, I did well, and I gobbled it up. I loved it. I loved working for these organizations. And if it wasn't for something that I could not change, I don't know if I would have questioned and stepped away.
There you go.
Because of my sexuality, I had to. And I think that the reason I wanted to write this book was like a lot of my friends had started deconstructing, deconverting, whatever. And I was like, I just want to put my story on display, because luckily for me, I got a 5-year head start on people with my deconstruction journey because of my sexuality. And I just wanted to share, like, here's what I found.
It wasn't just a head start. It was also it's a more difficult start as well. And it exposes the cracks more clearly. And the human story more clearly is right there. I mean, that's a good thing in terms of a great read. It's not a great thing for you, but here you are today, still learning, still journeying. And I think that arc going down, it allows the reader to start making their own conclusions and to identify with you as a human being. And we're all in this time where we're struggling with community and identity. The answers are not easy. They're not just there. There's no easy like post, reconstruction, building something new. It's not just going to happen like that. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's what's beautiful about your book, is that it helps just through your story. You're asking those big questions. You're showing what the journey looks like. Enough of me talking right now, but would you say that that's true in terms of what people will get out of the book? That was one of my other questions here.
No, it's actually really good always hearing another perspective, because you get so close to it. You have your own judgments and opinions about it. So hearing other people talk about it is always refreshing for me, because it's like, oh yeah, that's why I did it. And also like, oh, like that's a different perspective. I love that someone got that from this. And so hearing that's good, because for me, the descent feels like scary for me, because I'm like, well, I think as a writer, of like, you want this building action, anticipation. Then I do the opposite. I'm just like, bow. And gets me nervous around like, is there momentum? And so to hear that it was a good experience and helped you connect with it makes me happy. But yeah, I think that my biggest thing that I'm wanting people to take away is the reason why I set out to write it. And that is a feeling that so many people are in the process of deconstructing, are in the process of figuring out what this looks like, analyzing big questions, and I want them to bear witness to a story of someone that is in the same boat as them and has come up with some answers, to not necessarily say these are your answers too, but to, and I say this in the preface, of I feel like I've been stumbling, there's the book, around, and it's been messy at times, but like if someone can learn something from my breadcrumbs, if someone can learn something from me putting up a sign that says, hey, gulch ahead, if someone can get some rest and reprieve from me saying, hey, turn right, there's a glade here with some water and you can get some refreshment, then I feel so happy and so satisfied with what I set out to do with my book.
Yeah. Let's talk about just one more aspect of your book, and then we'll wrap up. But I think that so much of marginalized experience is kept from view, whether it's just unconscious that we do that, or whether it's done in a more orchestrated way. You don't not reveal things. You reveal things in this book. We don't have to talk about what they are. We don't want to spoil the story or the read, but I do think that it's just very powerful, and you're super honest, and you tell about some of your darkest struggles. And that takes a lot of courage, first of all, so thank you. And to be out there, and it must even be unsettling in a way, even right now, to know that book's going to go out, and that's a very normal author feeling too, by the way. But just talk about that. You didn't hold back. What was your intent there?
Probably naivety, but no, I think a value of mine is truth and authenticity. I think that we grow from each other as that happens. I think about like friends who've had like miscarriages, and then they feel so alone. And then as soon as they start getting honest, they realize, oh my God, so many people have experienced this too. Why did I not know? I didn't have to feel so alone. And so I think that straight people, queer people, cis people, trans people can touch things in my story, and because it's a human story at the end of the day. It's not just a coming out story. It's not just like a gay man story. Those elements are there because it's who I am. But like, I think there's so many things that we as humans across the board experience, especially when we were connected to a faith system that was both, it gave us so much life and then also brought a ton of pain, and then all these questions, that I feel like to not be honest about that would be a disservice to people that are, where a lot of us are in the same boat. And so I wanted to be candid. And there was this moment from my evangelical days, and it was so stupid, but I think about this. Someone asked me this literally last week, where it's like, why are you candid? Because I try to be, not just in my book, but in life. I have to be careful because sometimes I can overshare. But like, there was this, it made me realize where this all came from. I was in this all guys small group back in my mega church. And I was like, this is back when I was trying to hide me being gay. I was like, and just pushing it all down. And I would always say, yeah, I struggle with lust, because I'd be scared, because anytime I would share that it was more than that, it became a big deal. And this guy said, the belt of truth keeps your pants on. And it was like in relation to like sexual sin and whatever. And for me at that time, I was trying to keep this under wraps. And so back then I made this commitment with myself. I'm like, I am going to be honest, even if it has consequences. And back then that was my motive. But I've seen how, while there's consequences to being honest, the pros far outweighs the cons. And I've seen how being honest brings healing. I've seen how being candid creates connection. And so for me, while there's absolutely risk, what it benefits is far more important.
Freedom. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's a great sentiment to end on. that's how we find our way too in a world where we're struggling with so much incoherence. Is being honest and helping each other. Well, thank you so much. This is good. I learned some things about you, even though I read your book in advance.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. So wishing you well. I will say, if you've made it this far in the video, we need your help. Buy Brandon's book, tell people about Brandon's book, follow him on socials, listen to some of the other things he continues to keep saying. You've not heard the last of Brandon. He's a writer. He's getting out there. This is all part of a movement, and media and book buying can contribute to that movement. It really is making a difference in very small steps as we go, but it all adds up. It all counts. Where can people find you? Best place to find you?
Yeah, the easiest, brandonflanery.com. I put links to everything on there, like my writings with other publications, my socials, all of that. brandonflanery.com. Flanery is with one N, probably because I had a drunk ancestor back in the day that wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But brandonflanery.com. And most of my social handles is Flanbrand. Just think of like an old person cereal, and that'll help remember what it is. So
especially on TikTok.
Yeah, especially on TikTok.
Yeah. We see all of Brandon on TikTok.
I love me some TikTok. I'm not Gen Z, but I love me some TikTok.
You're good at it. You're really good. It's a lot of fun. All right. Thanks so much, Brandon. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.